Welcome to the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcast, please follow, hit the like button, or any subscribes. It really helps us with the algorithms. Santa Cruz Coffee Break is produced by the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum. All opinions are those of the speakers. We invite you to join us on the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF for more fun. Now, let's get on with this installment of Santa Cruz Coffee Break.
Welcome, everyone. We'd like to welcome in Peter Henriksen from Henriksen Amps. And this is Santa Cruz Guitar Players podcast number 94. Can you believe it, Tad? I can't either. And we're really excited for Peter. Tad got to meet Peter at the Artisan Show in Virginia a couple weeks back. Pennsylvania, sorry, I thought it was Virginia. And they're the same. And just their senator wears hoodies, you know, I mean, so well, I guess Pennsylvania. And almost every artist that we talk with, from Eric Sky to Lisa Liu to everybody, just says these amps are the bomb. So welcome in, Peter.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the Artisan Guitar Show. It's great. We do it every year. We're a sponsor. And if you are one of, I think, 60 or 70 million people within a half day's drive, definitely check it out. It happens every April.
Yeah. It was a wonderful show. It really was good. There were a lot of great guitars there. It was unfortunate that it was at a time where there was a little bit of uncertainty as to what was going on in the world, but the people who did attend, I think, had a fantastic time.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the best ones. The level of craftsmanship that goes into those custom guitars is just incredible. It always blows my mind to see them and to hear them played. It's really incredible.
Well, and just about everyone there that had a pickup built into it got the privilege of being able to play through one of your amps.
Yeah.
So you got to hear all of them at their best.
Yeah, we don't like being the noisy people at guitar shows that are particularly heavy on acoustic guitars, because it kind of ruins the vibe in the room. So for Artisan, we had them set us up with our own special demo room. So for people building arch tops, or for people who have installed pickups or microphones into the acoustic instruments, and I did see a couple basses. They could bring them into our room and play and jam without, kind of ruining the acoustic nature of the guitar show itself.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way of the future and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I wish they'd do it. I wish they'd put some of Fender and Marshall at NAMM in their own room, or the drum rooms. Maybe we could do that. I think that's the worst, but it's good to see some isolation like that. And then the guy doesn't, or the player doesn't really mind seeing what it'll do,
Yeah. I used to think the drum section at NAMM was the worst until I attended a couple of the Jazz Education Network Gen shows, and the product area there is nothing but horns. So it's like 1,000 college students demoing various horns against brick walls, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's way worse than the drum room at the NAMM show.
I'm going to take your word for that, because I would have a very hard time imagining something worse than the drum room. I'm glad I've not experienced it.
I just remember walking through it and hearing just everything was just kind of phasing. I mean, drummers are going to drum, and everybody was making all this noise, and you kind of moved 10 feet and it kind of phased in and out, and it was like a weird Van Halen record, in real life, along that line. So how'd you get started in this business?
Well, the truth is my dad started it. He retired, started playing more guitar, and he had played piano my whole life. But arthritis in his hand, or maybe it was his elbow. I can't remember. Something made it more comfortable to play guitar than piano. So he kind of took up his first love of guitar again in retirement. And he bought, sight unseen, a guitar from Roger Sadowski that had just come out, his Jim Hall model. And my dad really worshiped Jim Hall, and he thought, I'm searching for a guitar. He played an L5. He wasn't a big person. He was only like 5'7". So an L5 is kind of like hugging a park bench. And so he ordered the Jim Hall model, fell in love with it as soon as he picked it up, and then started it. Every time we get a new guitar, we start playing more and practicing more. And he then went down the rabbit hole of trying to make it sound the way he wanted it to sound with amplifiers. And there was a point where he literally had a piled up pile of amplifiers in the middle of his practice room. There's several, everything everybody tried. There's a solid state Ibanez. There was several uh, quasi-functioning polytones, various Rolands, and just nothing that he tried made that guitar sound the way he felt like everything was getting in the way of that guitar. And so his and most of his career was in electronics manufacturing. And so he just thought, I know how to design what I want. I'm just going to build one. And so that's how we got started, is he built a prototype amp. We sent 10 of them out to people and asked what they thought. And um, the response was so positive that he said, okay, well, let's start a business. And so I quit my job to build amps with my dad.
Well,
So that's how
So
we got started.
so were you like in the back bedroom soldering boards or something, or
Most of my life. Uh, I literally grew up doing that. That was my summer job, was stripping wires and testing circuit boards and stuff like that. So um, this was kind of old hat for us. And yes, the first 100 units, I was in the room above the garage, literally the room above his garage, soldering all of the through-hole components onto the circuit boards. And we hand built the cabinets and all of the stuff you couldn't possibly do, in full production for the first 100 units I had to do.
wow, how long ago was that?
That was 2006.
wow.
Okay, so that was
We
only
shipped
20 years ago.
we shipped our first amplifier. I still remember our very first real customer. His name's Larry Camp. He's a great guitar player. He lives in Florida, and he was our very first customer.
Wow, that's awesome.
Coming up on 20 years then.
Yep. Next year is our 20-year anniversary. So
Is there going to be an anniversary model?
I don't know.
I won't bring that up again.
That'd be cool. We've actually been having a lot of success with our friend Jamie Humphrey, who builds, along with his dad, Humphrey amplifiers. And he's been doing a lot of custom stuff. Hang on, I've got one right here. This is a
Oh my.
Colorado Beetle Kill Pine amplifier. And he does all it's all solid dovetail joinery. He does really amazing work. So I'll probably have him do something very special for the 20-year anniversary, but we have to get through this year first. We have to get to 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're close.
So do most teenagers.
Right. I made it.
They made it to 20. Yeah. I kind of wondered if I was going to. Is any of the current situation tough for you right now?
We don't import very much directly. I mean, we make electronics, so yes, but it's kind of a downstream thing, like it is for most American manufacturers. Anytime there's any sort of uncertainty, people pull back orders, which delays shipments, which throttles the available ocean shipments at the ports. Any sort of chaos is bad. So it's not so much for us for our end products, but for our suppliers. and their suppliers, and there's, they call it a supply chain because it's a chain. So yeah, we are experiencing some difficulties like everybody else, even though we build our products here. We use some components from China, some from Indonesia, so, all over the world. It's electronics. They come from everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, that's the part people don't always understand is when you say supply chain, it only takes one broken link for the whole thing to be worthless. So,
well, we learned that through COVID. That was chaos, for a few years. We only just last year started to really feel like our supply chain was more solid, because it really is. I describe it as less of a chain and more of a freight train connected with the cars connected by bungee cords. So like the snapping push-pull action, it's not smooth. And just one little domino can fall and cause a lot of disruption downstream that can have consequences for years. I mean, every manufacturer has got stories about 2021 and 2022 where it was kind of like spin the wheel. Like for us, it was knobs. We use a specific type of knob. It's a soft touch knob, so you can reach back and grab it and kind of, adjust it by feel on stage. And there's really only one company that makes it. And we'd get weird emails like, okay, now it's a 12-week lead time. Now it's a 52-week lead time. Now it's a 164-week lead time. Oh, wait, we found some. No, we're out. And it's just this chaos of, the, the phrase "for want of a nail."
Yeah.
we can't sell amps without knobs on them. So it doesn't take much to throw you off.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
like your analogy of the bungee cords between the freight cars.
Mhm.
That really makes a lot of sense. I do a very tiny manufacturing product, and yeah, that describes it really well. When one
Mhm.
vendor, one supplier, one producer, one whatever, has a delay, a problem, an issue, um, yeah, it just affects everything. It's
Mhm.
amazing. Good analogy.
If it were easy, everyone would do it, is what we always like to say around here.
That was just playing guitars.
Right. Playing guitar is hard enough.
Um, there's a picture behind you.
Mhm.
What is that?
That is the group photo from last year's Rocky Mountain Archtop Guitar Festival.
Oh, great.
Wow.
And in 2019, um, that was a year that the Woodstock Guitar Festival took a year off, and the Santa Barbara Guitar Show threw in the towel, and everybody that was in, the guitar building world kind of had an open calendar that fall. So I had a few beers and put out on Facebook, "Hey, would anybody want to come to Colorado for a guitar show?" And I just threw in at the very end, arch tops only. And then I went to bed. And then I woke up and there were dozens and dozens of people that thought that was an amazing idea, that there'd never been an arch top only guitar show. And so everybody showed up in my little town of Arvada, Colorado, and we had just incredible. Uh, we had a great weekend, and so we did it again in 2022, 23, and 24 last year, and we got everybody together for a group photo, the players and the luthiers, and it was really a great moment. And then that's when I decided that we needed to do this every other year.
Well, a little
Every year is a bit
distracting from
much.
the amp building part of your business.
It is a lot of work. I mean, we coordinated, I think, a total of 7 stages over 4 days.
Wow.
And by we, I mean me. I have this whole spreadsheet where it it really needs to be somebody's like part-time job just year round to manage an event like that. And I don't have the time to do it. And it's a pretty big financial strain as well. It's worth it, but putting on a guitar show / music festival is that's a lot to take on. So every other year will work fine. As I understand it, that's how the Healdsburg show used to work, was every other year, and gives people more time. It's hard to pump out an archtop. It takes a while. So for the luthiers to have 2 years to have something to bring to a show and to do more planning makes more sense for them.
Yeah. Rather than having to put out a masterpiece every year, you give them 2 years.
Right. Well, shows are a lot of luthiers end up borrowing instruments back from clients just to show. It's a pretty, and as I'm sure you guys know, it's a pretty involved process, and it's not like they've got one laying around that they can just be like, oh yeah, it's just like this one, or sacrifice their time and materials to keep a demo model around. That would be very difficult to do, both time-wise and financially. So it's always a struggle for them to do guitar shows, to have inventory to show at a guitar show. It takes a lot of planning. And so having every other year gives them that break, and gives me a break, gives my wife a break. So next year will be the 20-year Henriksen anniversary and Rocky Mountain Archtop Guitar Festival return. So next year's gonna be pretty epic.
I was just going to go there. I mean, wow, that'll be your 20th anniversary, and it sounds like it's next year. So
it is.
Yeah, that's really great.
We'll have to put that on the calendar now. So
yeah,
definitely come. It's pretty. You just sort of like look back at the schedule that we had and scratch your head, like, how in the world did all of these people get together in the same place at the same time? And it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Chris Thiele's doing a mandolin camp. I live in Pacific Grove, and he's doing a mandolin camp at the end of the next month at Asilomar. And wow, the list is like crazy, and I can see how that, having chaired a couple of photo conferences, been a chair for something like that. I can see how keeping everybody in one place, with these are where everything is here. You don't have to travel to, you don't have to walk more than 500 yards to get from your room to this venue or this venue or this venue. It's a beautiful facility. It was designed by the woman that did San Simeon, and the rooms are the Hearst thing in San Simeon, and the rooms and the stuff are just really, really 1924 California.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful thing, but I can see we're 7 stages.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So what we did, to simplify things, is we hired a production company to build a stage in the lobby of the hotel. So picture a smaller version of the Hilton at NAMM. There's a stage right there in the lobby, and we run guitar demos all day and then concerts in the evening. And then our little town, Arvada, Colorado, there's an old town with a bunch of wine bars and a couple breweries and some places that become venues for the evening, and you can walk around town. September in Colorado is really beautiful, and you can walk from venue to venue and see all sorts of different music. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. We had an organ trio packed into the front of this tiny wine bar, and I couldn't even get in. We were all standing on the sidewalk looking through the window. And that was just Saturday or Friday evening. I can't remember. It was it becomes kind of a de facto jazz guitar festival. We bring in a lot of local drummers and bass players and stuff like that, and they back up the musicians that are here representing the guitar brands who are on display, and it's really a special event.
It's really great.
Sounds awesome. So because we started out kind of working primarily with Santa Cruz Guitar Company, at least I am mostly an acoustic guitar person. And playing with other people, I've had to learn about pickups and a little bit about electric guitars. But amps have always been rather confusing.
Mhm.
I have a number of people who swear to me that you're not a real musician if you're not playing a tube amp. And then my body says to me, carrying a tube amp to a gig is just stupid.
Mhm.
I'm not going to do that very long. Your amps are very small, very lightweight. Our good friend Lisa Lou was saying, my Bud is the only amp I take. I don't care whether I'm playing an acoustic guitar, a jazz guitar, electric guitar. I take it, it works. Talk to us a little bit about your amps and what makes them so special.
Sure. Well, for starters, a tube amp is a poor choice, with rare exception, for amplifying an acoustic guitar.
Learn that one.
Yeah. We uh first of all, different tools for different jobs. If I always tell people, raise your hand if you only own one guitar. That would be crazy. Only a crazy person would only own one guitar. So, because you've got, different tools for different jobs. So, same with amplifiers. When we first started, it was um, basically my dad wanted something he could take to your average jazz gig, which is, maybe there's a PA just for the vocals, maybe there's not. It needs to be small, portable, but loud enough to carry a small room regardless. And so that requires a minimum amount of power, which uh, our amplifiers on the bench are around 100 we say 120, but they technically are around 135 watts. To do that with a tube amp, it would not be portable, to say the least, and just not the right tool for the job. Um, One thing that sets our preamps apart is that your standard Fender Marshall tone stack is scooped, and ours is not. Because again, for jazz guitar, and I think the carryover for acoustic guitar in general, is that you want a flatter, more piano-like response. And so you need boatloads of power and clean headroom. And so that's kind of our primary, our design goal. That way, when you hit that third or fourth note in a chord, you hear that note. It doesn't make the first note you hit disappear. You know what I mean? And that's what having all the power is for.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Not just
Okay.
for making more noise, but to make
No. No. Um, yeah, and the magic really is in the preamp. We're using Class D power amp just like everybody else these days, and they've gotten really good and very efficient and very reliable. So it's kind of all how you set up your preamp and the feature set that you build out. And what we did when we designed the Bud, which is our biggest seller, we started out with the very creative name, the Jazz Amp. we we had a Jazz Amp 10-inch and a Jazz Amp 12-inch, and that was it. As time went on, we developed the Bud, named after my dad. His name was Bud. It needed all the features you needed to do like a singer-songwriter gig, not just a jazz guitar gig. So we added, quarter-inch XLR combo jacks. Channel 2 is a bright switch, which makes it more ideal for vocals. We conditioned the line out to work to be really good. It's like a recording studio quality line out. You can run it into the PA or recording interface, whatever you need. And basically all the features that you need to gig and not bring a PA. If you're just playing acoustic guitar and singing, you really just need the Bud. Or if you're doing a duet, or if you're doing two different instruments. If you switch back and forth between like nylon and steel string, you can EQ them separately and just, go back and forth. So that's kind of where our feature set was aimed at, was versatility.
uh-huh. And it's also they're very small and very lightweight. Well, they're much lighter weight than the tube amp for people who aren't necessarily familiar because you don't sell through dealers, right?
No, we don't. We had a fairly extensive dealer network before COVID, and with that supply chain issue, and we're a small niche company, we decided just we were going to go for the direct to consumer uh, approach.
Okay.
So we still have a lot of dealers internationally, but for the United States, we just sell directly from Henriksen.
All right. Makes
That's
sense.
that's probably a blessing and a little bit of a curse.
It was a difficult decision that I made in April of 2020 that it did require ending a lot of longtime partnerships with some very good stores. And I do miss those relationships, but we had to stay in business. We had a supply chain problem that had to be managed and a limited amount of inventory. I mean, everybody's got a COVID story. I'll keep mine brief. I was sitting in a warehouse with $250,000 worth of finished goods that had been canceled from, all the NAMM show orders that we wrote in January. People just canceled them. And with the supply chain problems, I knew that we weren't going to be able to get some of our parts for a while. And so, given a limited amount of inventory, we just made the hard decision that if you bought a Henriksen, you were going to have to buy it from Henriksen. And there was no other way for us to survive 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's we've made that work for us, and it's been really great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's really good.
Cool.
So are you shipping and receiving as well and boxing them up and
Me personally,
yeah.
as seldom as possible. I've got a really great crew, and most of my time is spent juggling the administrative hats, banks and bills and invoices and purchase orders and stuff like that. And I don't do a lot of the assembly line anymore, but there was, again, 2020, it was me. And our engineer Eric was doing customer service. That was it.
Oh wow. Just the two of you. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's bitty.
That's got to
Yeah,
be hard.
that's bitty.
We got we got through it. So here we are. We're at 19. We're going to make it to 20 next year.
There you go.
So
Perfect.
on the wall behind you, there's a Charlie Christensen pickup in that Telecaster like looking guitar. Is that a Nash?
That is not. That is made by Damon Myland, who's the head luthier at Benedetto Guitars. And we needed a booth guitar that was not, not just an arch top. And we partner with Benedetto on our NAMM booth and when we did NAMM. And so Damon built that for me. And he builds tellies in his spare time in his garage. And it's pretty spectacular guitar. So
Yeah,
when I told him what we wanted it for was for the booth, so he built it as very much a jazz Telecaster.
it's
Jazz
tricky to match up that Charlie with a Telly bridge.
Mm-hmm.
It is tricky to do that. I'm a Telly player, and it's tricky. I haven't figured it out yet. I figured out Firebirds, and I figured out P90s, and I figured out humbuckers, but that Charlie's a special beast.
Mm-hmm.
For that sound. I mean,
Yeah.
And nothing sounds like it,
Right.
So it's that's a beautiful instrument.
Yeah, I love it. I wish I played more. I'm actually one of my goals this year is to actually play, guitar.
So we're going to hear you on stage at the 20th anniversary Arch Top Festival.
I'm not getting on stage those guys. Not gonna happen.
I know the feeling. Yes.
Yeah.
We're sponsoring a guitar camp this summer, and I've sponsored a bunch of camps, but I've never attended one. So this is my first time actually going as an attendee. I'm trying to earn my way there. I've got 3 more months to get my chops up to where I can be a beginner. and make the most use out of a camp. And so this one's the Pete Huttlinger guitar camp in Livingston, Montana, and it's 3 days of guitar and 1 day of fly fishing. And I love both of those things, and so that's part of my goal this year is to actually become a competent guitar player or start my journey down.
There you go.
Do you get to I spent about 4 years in Boulder, so
Okay.
I understand kind of the area, fairly well. Do you get a chance to get out and fly fish at all?
I do. Not as
Great.
often as I'd like, but I think that's true of anybody who fishes. It's never as often as you'd like. But yeah, I go to St. Vrain a lot, and Boulder Canyon, Cheeseman Canyon. Those are the good spots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Small Freestone Creek kind of stuff. I like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Beautiful.
So the Montana camp's going to be my first boat float trip. I've never done one of those. I've just always been a small creek fisherman, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be great. You'll it's a different experience. I think it's different than waders for sure. That'll be fun. That's a beautiful area of the country.
I've never been there. I drove through Montana once, but I've never stopped and spent any time there, and I hear it's amazing.
Rocky Mountain School of Photography used to be up there, and I'd go up every year, and just wow, and lived in South Dakota and Colorado for a number of years, so I spent a lot of time up there, and it's just, gosh, big sky.
Big sky.
Big sky for sure.
So, Peter, I guess one thing that we should ask is, where are you going to be, and where are your amps going to be in the not too distant future for people who would like to fondle one and hear it for themselves?
Well, we are sponsoring the Fretboard Summit in Chicago this August. We're one of the main sponsors, and if you haven't been, that is an amazingly fun show. It's not just a guitar show. It's the best way I would describe it is it's the equivalent of a comic book convention for guitar. There are workshops, there are book signings, there are clinics, there are products, it's wonderful. It's a great event. Really excited to do that again. And then I think that is all the events for this year until next year. We don't do the NAMM show anymore, but we do the Artisan Guitar Show. We'll have our own Archtop Guitar Show next year, and Fretboard Summit. And I know there's a Central Coast Jazz Guitar Festival that is it's a smaller luthier element, but still, it's great. If you're into jazz guitar, that's a really great one. And they did that in, I'm forgetting the name of the town in California. That's just north of Solvang.
Okay.
Not San Luis Obispo.
No, not that far. They filmed the Sideways movie there, or some scenes there.
Yeah. I know where it is. I was gonna ask you. I can think of the name of the town. It's not Lompoc, but it's just right in Santa Ynez.
That's it.
I just made the drive up to 101 there real quick in my head, and I went, after Solvang, Santa Ynez.
Yeah.
It's
kind of that guitar show was a lot of fun. They had really great teachers, and that the hotel was amazing. And there's an ostrich farm down the road, so if you need a breather, just go down and feed some ostriches and take a
Michael
walk.
Jackson territory. It's Michael Jackson territory. It's a really beautiful kind of I don't want to say it's unmolested part of California, but it's far enough away from LA that they don't go up there for the day, and it's a little trek from San Francisco, and probably about the same distance from me here in Monterey. but that's good. Do you know dates on that?
I don't think they've released dates on that yet. It's the Central Coast Jazz Guitar Festival. I'm spacing their URL, but you can look it up. Last year was their second year, but it really was their first year because the first year they had it in a different place and it was kind of a trial run. And so they really knocked it out of the park this year and uh, look forward to doing it in the future. It's a great show for people in California because it's not a out of the way or out of reach drive.
Yeah.
It's still a long drive, but it's a pretty one.
They have they have March 13th through the 16th, 2026.
Oh, great. Okay.
So and 2025, there's something here, but it's not. Holy cow, look at the players.
Yeah.
Whoa, stand
Right.
back. Not. Yeah, oh, that's good. And Buellton, it looks like it.
Buellton. That's right. Yeah.
Buellton. But that looks like fun.
Highly recommend. I think that's going to grow into a show of similar importance to the Artisan show. And it'll be kind of like the West Coast show, East Coast, and then, hopefully people keep coming to the Arvada show here. I'll keep doing it as long as people keep showing up. So we can kind of be the every other year central location.
Oh, that would work great. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, anything else you want to tell us?
I don't want to make any promises we can't keep, but we are developing some new products we hope to release around January. So keep your eyes peeled for at long last, since myself and everybody else who works here is a bass player, we're going to have a bass amp.
Is that one of the requirements to work there? Is you
No,
have to be
it's
a bass
just,
player?
it just happens, it happened that way. And, among other instruments, but that was, again, when we got into this, because my dad was a jazz guitar player, I just tinker around on electric bass. So, I'm not the one driving that, but it would be nice to have a bass line. So we're finally going to develop that and a couple other things that I keep looking up because they're on my whiteboard, but we're aiming for January for a wider product release and a little bit of a rebrand of the company and some really exciting stuff.
Really great.
Excellent. Well, I would say that people shouldn't wait. That right now your amps have gotten.
Oh yeah, we're not
razor
changing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're
Yeah.
not changing the Bud at all. The Bud is definitely our best seller. It's a great product and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
We're not-
Yeah. And I can say, having gone down the wrong road and a fair bit of money, I kind of wish I'd bought one at the beginning. I remember seeing them at the Santa Barbara show and thinking,
Mhm.
wow, that seems expensive. But after going down the road I've been down and the money I've spent, it would have been a lot cheaper to have just picked up one of those right at the beginning.
Yeah. We know it's an investment, but it's a product we stand behind. We have the best warranty in the industry and you can call and talk to me about something if there's a problem and you get what you pay for.
Exactly. What you need to emphasize there, because the same is true with guitars. You
Yep.
get a good guitar, it's going to keep it for life. And while we've all grown up or gotten used to the concept of electronic devices as being primarily inexpensive, disposable things, that's not always the
Yeah.
best way to approach it.
Well, they don't have to either. You can. A lot of people, guitar players in particular, have this mindset that solid state electronics are cheap. But I defy you to go into the audiophile world with that mentality
Oh
because
boy.
and $20,000 on a preamp that's all solid state. And that's a cheap entry level one. And so our philosophy with our amplifiers for guitar is that, solid state amps started taking the place of tube amps in the marketplace because they were a cheap alternative, but they don't have to be. It's not necessarily a cost thing. And there are some very expensive components in our amplifiers, and we don't cheap out on the stuff that counts. The stuff that's in the signal chain is very high quality, um, you know, very little error tolerance components. And that's what you pay for. And you pay for it, the electronic assembly is highly scrutinized throughout the entire process. We individually play test every single amplifier before it leaves.
Wow.
Somebody picks up a guitar and plugs into the amp before it leaves the bench.
That's great. That is, I think that's the way to do it. And I think that's the wave of the future for a lot of people,
Sure.
It's funny. I was in San Francisco yesterday, actually Emeryville, and my wife and I were looking for some place to have lunch, and we ended up at this kind of crazy, weird, fun indoor market, and next to it was a Guitar Center. And I was looking at it going, what's it doing here? I mean, it's like at the end of the road, and it was difficult to find, and there was no parking, and everything. And I went in, and I was stunned at the inventory, just stunned at what they had. And yet I didn't think there was anything there that was even worth looking at. It was Gibson and Fender, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, so like, what would I go there for? I used to go to Guitar Center for strings, and they were out of certain stuff, and they had maybe 40 different kinds of strings with each individual packaged. I'd buy a 12 pack, just to not have to go again. And I when we left, I was asking my wife, I said, so why does somebody go there?
Yeah.
I mean, for a $6,000 Les Paul that looks like an $1,800 Les Paul, except the top might be a little bit prettier, but I guess, I mean, Tad knows the area better than I do, but wow, this thing was like by the BART tracks, and what the heck, why there?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Anyway. There just wasn't anything. As a player, I'd go there for. Yeah. So I think the small company thing, I really applaud you for doing it, and you've been really gracious with your time. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm always willing to talk about guitar gear.
Probably.
Well, we will make sure that we have links to Henriksen on the site, and
great.
We would encourage everybody to at least go and look at it. As I said before, a lot of really great players rely on your amps, and there's a good reason for that. So thank you for talking to us about that.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And hopefully we'll see you in Chicago.
I will definitely be there. We've got our own room.
Well, we're still working out details of whether we're going to go out there, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll make it happen.
That's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Excellent.
Yeah. So have a great Colorado day.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take
very
care.
much.
We hope you enjoyed this installment of the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. For more music-related fun, please join the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF or santacruzguitarplayers.com. If you have any questions or possible podcast topics, please contact us. If you have a product or service that you feel would be of value to our listeners, please consider adding your support and keeping the coffee pot on. Contact us for more information. We ask that you hit the like, follow, bell, or bookmark buttons so we can keep you informed of upcoming podcast episodes. We hope you enjoyed Santa Cruz Coffee Break. Now it's time to go play your guitar.